So till now, thanks for your insights which you had given, pre-harvest, harvest, transportation. This is the SME which is operating in the bulk cold store.
Yes.
And I think this is something which is very familiar to you.
Yeah, I feel very
And
much at home.
yes,
Absolutely.
so back cold store we generally, as I told you earlier also, we use because of the cost effectiveness for shorter period of, or you can say the 6 to 7th month of storage which is there.
Yeah.
This bulk cold store, because we have better technology, so we are able to keep the potatoes for 8 to 10 months.
Yes.
And we are using the bulk cold store for those periods only. So wherever we have to use the potatoes beyond 8 months to 10 months, so harvesting happens now,
Yes.
and we have to keep the potato till December to make sure that quality potatoes are available for our manufacturing lines.
Yes. Yes.
Now the problem which we are facing, or the issues you can say in terms of the quality with this bulk cold store, where I would request your insights or the thoughts or the suggestion. So that is something which will be helpful for us to keep, or to the SMEs to just maintain the quality which is required in the bulk cold store, because big investment goes into it.
Yes.
So the problem which we are facing here is, once we are already, because I told you for the long cold store, the problem where we are facing right now is after 8 months or 7 months or 8 months, when we start evacuating the store, we find there is a pressure bruise in the inner layer of the pile which is attached to those hollow ducts which are there.
Yeah.
That is one thing which is we want to understand why it is happening, or what should be our actions to not to have that, or to minimize that.
Yeah. Pressure bruises. Well, first of all, this is a store that is of very good quality, and so in these stores you should be able to store potatoes very long. It's happening in Europe also. You need a good quality of potatoes to go in, of course, but I've seen the average quality is very good here, so I have no doubt it's feasible to do that for long-term storage. Pressure bruises are a consequence of moisture loss. So, and how do you lose moisture? Is by ventilation. Of course, you need to ventilate and you need to circulate the air and cool down. You need some air movement, but you should do that minimally. So only when really required, not just because you think every half an hour it should run for another half hour. No, it should be based on triggers for temperature differences in the pile, or for humidity. If the humidity drops below 95%, then you increase the humidity, and of course then you run the fans to spread it. Also on CO2, you need to get rid of CO2, so you need to refresh the air at times, and you need to run your fans at that time. But you have to do that at a minimum level, because the more you ventilate, the more you will have moisture loss. Another point is your distance of the ducts. So here you have ducts above ground at a certain distance. In this store, this particular store, they turn out to be 4.5 meters.
Okay.
And that means that your store height, when settled, it should be at a minimum of 4.5 meters. It settles about 10%, so in order to fill it, you have to go up to 5 meters height in this store to make sure that after a couple of weeks, when the pile settles, it is 4.5 meters. Otherwise, if the pile height is too low, you see much more air going through the potatoes just above the ducts and very little between the ducts. So above the ducts, you will have much more weight loss because there's much more air passing by. So therefore, very important to have a proper store loading, minimize the number of hours that the fans run, and do it just on the triggers of relative humidity, CO2, and temperature. And they can be accurately set in the storage computer when to run the fans. Those parameters are of crucial importance. And then I'm confident you will have much less pressure bruises at the end of your storage season after 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, again, as you have a very vast experience in the CIPC,
Yeah.
so my next question is related to the CIPC, because we are keeping potato for the long.
Yeah.
Definitely we have to use anti-sprouts. Now what we are finding it, when we are using the anti-sprouts in the bulk cold stores, in the corners of the bulk cold store which is near to the wall, lower side of the pile, we are finding even after giving the required dose of the CIPC and the frequency which is there, still we are finding some of the sprouts which are happening.
Yes.
So what could be the reason for that? Is there the ventilation or the airflow is the major reason which is there, or
It looks
there are
like it.
hot pockets which are getting developed?
Well, again, the air transfers the CIPC through the pile. So when you do a fogging operation, you see a mist. In the mist is very small particles of CIPC, and you can see. Well, you're not allowed to stand on top of the pile while you're fogging, but if you would be, and you place some cameras maybe, you will see where it comes out of the pile first, and there is the easiest airflow. In some corners, will have a lower airflow. In the corner particularly, the ducts are not there, and there is not a good air movement in the corner, so it's logical that you get more sprouting there. Considering the whole store, I think the problem should not be too big, but again, if the store was not loaded high enough, you will have a problem. The CIPC distribution is poor, and you see just a good efficacy above the ducts and not in between them. So CIPC really needs a very good distribution of the air in the store. Otherwise, it will not function properly.
So it's correlated. So in the pile height and versus what should be the distance between the two ducts which are there. If
Yes.
this is 4 meter, then the pile height should be 4 meter after settlement.
Yes.
And this will have impact both. If we are just keeping it low, then there will be an impact which will be there on the pressure boost as well as on the efficacy of the CIPC.
Yes.
Is it that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And also bear in mind, CIPC is most effective if you apply it very soon after store loading.
Okay.
So don't wait too long till you've reached the holding temperature. The first fogging application should be made within 3 weeks after the store is closed. So that's faster than when you have the holding temperature. So there's no problem to apply CIPC if the stock temperature is still 12 degrees or more. It will adhere. You may lose a little bit because it's a bit more volatile, but it's about being there early. The later you are, the more the pile has settled, and the less space there is for CIPC to come to the eyes of the potato tuber where it has to work. It works on the eyes.
Okay. While applying the CIPC, so the ventilation fan has to be functional, correct? Because
Yes.
that is through where that the fan, if the fans are working, then only the air can go and then probably go to the piles.
Yes, but there, okay, we have to review that situation in more detail, because you mentioned also to me that considering the flammability of the product, it's not recommended to run the fans during application because it's a methanol-based formulation, which is very flammable. For other formulations, for sure, always run the fans during the fogging. For the methanol one, I think we have to liaise with the manufacturer of it,
Okay.
whether we can do it. It would be my recommendation, always to run the fans during the application.
Application.
That's the best way.
Yeah. So probably the expert who are doing it for us, they will be aware of that, and probably we should connect to them that what should be the right way of doing the APC,
Yes.
or spreading the fumes inside the chamber.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Thank you, Jat.
Yeah, you're most
And
welcome.
Thanks to Palm
Thank you.
for giving us the piece of advice. Definitely, this is going to be very helpful for the farmers, for the SMEs,
Yeah.
and this is the knowledge transfer and the great service which the Palm is doing to the SMEs and the farmers. Thank you.
It
Thanks
has been
for
a great pleasure to be here. Thank you
Yeah,
very much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be with you. And I wish you a very good storage season.
Now, I, Mohammad Arif, sign off from High Farm podcast on pre-harvest, post-harvest, and the storage management. Thanks to Palm and thanks to Jat Hoffman for giving the advice which will be very beneficial for the farmers and for the SMEs. Stay tuned for the next upcoming podcast from the High Farm. Thank you.